Okay, here we go. So here we are today, Friday, August 21st. We're welcoming James Damon to as our presenter for Interface. His talk is entitled Zero Balancing, Creating Embodied Connection to Self and Others. You may already know that James is a licensed acupuncturist and certified zero balancer and has been in practice since 1995. He's taught at the Institute of Taoist Education and Acupuncture, which is an accredited master's program in acupuncture in Louisville, and has been around for 20 years. He loves the outdoors and teaching to groups, and here we are today with the honor of having him share with us some of the things that he has some expertise in. So without further ado, let's welcome James. And I'll stop the share here.
Okay. Thank you, Barry. Well, good morning, everyone. I'm thrilled to share with you today some of the insights from the theory and practice of zero balancing acupressure that I feel like are useful for people from all walks of life to know, especially clinicians. And there's bits of that theory that I think can enrich all of our lives. And I want to start off this morning with a meditation to just set the frame and help us all get present. This is a meditation that's used in the beginning of zero balancing classes, lasts maybe 5 minutes, and just a nice opportunity for us to become present together. So I'm going to invite you to find a comfortable seat, and if it feels comfortable, allow your eyes to close. And just allow yourself to come present to this moment. Here on February 21st, 2020. And become aware of your body and its connection to whatever you're sitting on. And become aware of your sit bones, the base of your pelvis that's making contact with the earth. And if you're sitting in a chair, to become aware of your feet. And feel that connection to the earth. And feel the support that Mother Earth can give to us. And allow yourself to let go into that support. Bringing your awareness from your tailbone, drop a line of energy down into the earth, feeling that connection and that anchor into the earth. And go as deep as you'd like. And from there, bringing your awareness back up through the earth, into your tailbone and your sacrum, and your low back, and bring your awareness up your back, mid back, upper back, your neck, your skull, and pause just above your skull to acknowledge yourself for all the things that you do to be a conscious human being in this world. From that appreciation, bringing your awareness up through the ceiling of the building you're in and out into this August smoky sky, and bringing your awareness up through the atmospheres and up into the heavens, out into the atmospheres and into the heavens, and imagine a place up in the heavens, a place that's free and open, where all of our energies could meet, wherever we happen to be. And draw a pyramid of light down over our time here today. A pyramid of light in which we hold each other and ourselves in the highest personal regard. And in this pyramid, where learning can be easy and fun, and we can enjoy being with each other, learning from each other. And into this pyramid, if it feels comfortable to you, you can invite any guides, teachers, angels, whatever forces of healing and well-being that you'd like to have here present with us today on this call, this talk, and there will be some exercises today. And from the top of that pyramid of light, bringing your awareness back down through the atmospheres, through the summer sky, through the ceiling of your building, through the crown of your head, and into your body. And feel simultaneously a connection between heaven and earth. Feeling simultaneously grounded and anchored into the earth, and the crown of your head and your being open up to unlimited possibilities of goodness. And let all of that imagery go for a moment. And we're just going to pause here for a few seconds to allow yourself to just to be. And returning your awareness to your chair and to your body, and coming back present to the call today. Thank you, everyone. Let's see, I have a little bit of a visual aid here that I want to use today. It's a presentation software called Prezi. And let's see if this works. I sure hope so. Prezi, there we are. And screen share. Can you all see the presentation here? Somebody say something? Okay, I'm just going to assume it's working because I haven't heard anything from anyone. So there's my name, my phone number if you want to contact me. One of the things I'm going to start off speaking about is the vocabulary of touch. And when I say touch, you're going to think of body work, which yes, it's intended for, but it can be used for connection with people regardless of if there's physical touch involved. I'm going to be talking about working signs, how we can tell that energy is moving in people and moving in us. That can be quite useful to have some awareness of. I'm going to talk about when to refer to a zero balancing practitioner. And we do have a breakout room exercise that I'm going to do with people at the end of the vocabulary of touch. And I wanted to start off with a short video about zero balancing, just so people have some sense of what zero balancing is as a bodywork modality, because I'm going to be using the term quite frequently today. I may abbreviate it occasionally and use the words ZB, but just so you have some sense of that. And I have a little minute-and-a-half presentation from YouTube that I want to play. And it'll give you some sense of the physicality of the zero balancing, what's involved. Here we go.
Zero balancing is a powerful body-mind therapy that uses skilled touch to address the relationships between energy and structures within the body. Following a protocol that typically lasts 30 to 45 minutes, the practitioner utilizes finger pressure and gentle traction on the bones and joints to create points of balance around which the body can relax and reorganize. Your practitioner will assess your body for tension, particularly tension held in the bones and joints. Then your zero balancer will place gentle finger pressure or traction called fulcrums into areas around the spine, ribs, hips, feet, and neck to support the body, allowing it to deeply relax and release held tension in these areas. Zero balancing enables your own energy to flow in stronger, clearer ways, helping you to feel more like yourself and more at home in your body. People of all ages can benefit from zero balancing. It can help amplify feelings of wellness in healthy people and can help those with health challenges and stress to feel better. Zero balancing has been shown to help calm the nervous system, improve sleep and breathing, improve joint mobility, and reduce fatigue. Zero balancing supports the body's natural healing processes.
Okay. So I just wanted to share that little bit. The opening meditation was designed.
Zero balancing is a powerful body-mind therapy that uses skilled touch to address the relationships between.
Okay, YouTube is gone. Wanted to share that because one of the goals of the opening meditation was to just create a clearer, stronger field of energy in us for this presentation. Let's see. Just a tiny bit of background. Zero balancing was developed by Dr. Fritz Smith, an osteopath in the 1970s as part of a master's program in acupuncture that he was in. So that's part of my connection with zero balancing, is that connection with the founder who studied acupuncture in the same tradition that I do. I'm going to go back to share the screen with my presentation software, and we'll dive right into the vocabulary of touch. Okay. The vocabulary of touch says basically when we're touching someone, we can have different ways of our connecting with the other person. One of the ways to connect with someone with touch, and this works not just with touch, but with people in general, is blending. And in blending, it can look like a Venn diagram where you have one person and another person, and there's a bit of an overlap there where there's a blending of energies between the two people. See what else I can say. Blending is something that can happen in a choir, for example, when there's a blending of voices and there's a mixing of the energies. And it can be quite a pleasant thing to blend with someone, and yet the boundaries are not quite distinct with that form of touch or that form of connection. Another way that we can see the energy of touch working between people or without touch is streaming. So that might look like me pouring energy into you somehow. Like I'm wanting to extend my warmth, my compassion, my love. And the challenge with streaming is that I could become depleted if I'm streaming my energy into you. And it could also be overwhelming to you as a recipient too, to have that streaming. You could also kind of smother another person with that streaming kind of energy. Another form of energy exchange is channeling, where I may be channeling some kind of an energy through myself and into you. Reiki is a good example of this kind of transmission of energy. part of the challenge with channeling of energy is that the channel, if it was me in this case, may not be very clear. So the energy that comes through to you may not come through uncorrupted. In zero balancing, the kind of touch that we prefer to use is called interface touch, which I thought was quite interesting given the group that I'm presenting to today. Interface touch, or interface presence, if you will, is designed to be such that there's a very clear boundary between people. And in zero balancing in the therapy, I'm very clear where my touch ends and where I'm connecting with another person. We use fingertip pressure most of the time in zero balancing. And it's a very clear, we touch bone in zero balancing. That's our intention anyway, is to touch bone and bony structures. So it's easy to have a clear connection, bone to bone, so that I'm clear where I end and where you begin. I had years of training as a massage therapist, and I realized that when I was doing massage with people, there was oftentimes a blending or an exchange of energies, and I just didn't feel like it was that clean or clear, especially when I was practicing Reiki, which I still enjoy practicing Reiki, but it has its disadvantages in terms of enmeshment with the client, perhaps picking up energies from the client. And in the interface touch, there's, like I said, that clear boundary between people. And one of the advantages of that clear boundary that we have in interface is that we're not forcing or trying to make something happen with our touch. And you might say with an interface interaction with someone, it's a similar thing in terms of wanting to be able to be present with someone else, but not forcing an outcome. There's with zero balancing, with interface touch, we tend to we want to have no judgment with the connection that we're having with the other person. And that could hold true for an interface interaction with other people, where you're holding the person in high regard, or at least you're not having a sense of judgment there. And with the interface kind of interaction, there can be a clarity with the other person to varying degrees of what's projected versus what is real. And you're able to feel your own feelings with interface connection, as well as be aware of another person's feelings as their feelings, or what's happening with the other person. So the ideal in zero balancing is to have that connection, that kind of interface connection, where there's that clarity of touch. And it's been a helpful concept in my life, as well as in body work, to consider that quality of clarity with other people, and not wanting to ideally to blend with them too much, or to enmesh with them in some way. And there's not necessarily a good or bad between blending, streaming, and channeling. There's just consequences of all of them. And it can feel wonderful to blend with another person and feel a sense of kind of unity there. The sexual experience is a common place where people feel that. But it can have its downfalls. And so the quality of interface has been really helpful. I even use it with acupuncture when I'm needling to that I'm connecting with the other person's energy and stimulating their energy from them, not like I'm streaming anything through the needle or I'm putting anything into the needle. I'm activating the energy inside that person for their own use and well-being, not putting anything through the needle. And I feel like when I'm acting from interface, I generally feel a little bit more energetic and a little bit less likely to feel depleted by my work, either with acupuncture or zero balancing or just being out in the world. So that's the concept that I wanted to present around the vocabulary of touch. It's a good chance, opportunity if people have questions at this point, if it's brief. Otherwise, we can leave it till the end of the presentation. But if there's something that someone wants to ask, I'm open at this point. Okay, I will. Oh, I never clicked this circle. Here we are. Some of the points that I just spoke about. There's not a sense of codependency with an interface touch. Trying to get back to my other screen and the one from, there we go. Okay, at this point, I wanted to do a short exercise in breakout rooms. It's an exercise that I've done with quite a few people over the years in teaching at the acupuncture school, and I found it to be useful enough to do with clients on occasion. And the exercise, I call it, May I Touch You? And the exercise involves asking a person if you can touch them over and over, and having the other person either say yes or say no. And it can give facility in the person both responding and in the person asking to being open to saying yes and to saying no, or hearing yes and hearing no. And I have a little slide here of this exercise, and I'll talk you through it, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms and come back and we can talk about our experience either after the exercise or at the Q&A at the end. So what is going to happen is you'll get paired off randomly in a breakout room, and if this is something you don't feel comfortable with, you can opt out of the breakout room. You don't have to go into it. But in your dyads, you'll pick a person to ask first and set a timer for 60 seconds or 1 minute. And the person asking would say, may I touch you? And the potential recipient would either respond yes or no. And if yes, the asker would touch virtually, in this case, the recipient's left knee, and hold for a few seconds, and then release the touch, give a few seconds space, and ask again, may I touch you? If the recipient says no, then you just wait a few seconds for the air to clear, and then ask again, may I touch you? And ideally, the potential recipient would say yes at least once during that minute, and no at least once. And I have 90 seconds here, but I did the exercise last night and I found out 60 seconds is better, so disregard the 90. And then without discussing, switch roles. And it'd be nice if you can just stand up for a moment to switch up the energy, maybe just pretend to switch chairs, and then repeat. And the other person would ask, may I touch you? The person would say either yes or no. Give a little space for the energy to clear, and then ask again. And then take a couple of minutes to share with your partner how it felt to say yes and no and how it felt to receive the yes and no. And we'll come back to the greater room in 7 minutes. Okay, I'll leave this up for the exercise, and Barry is gonna help us go into breakout rooms. We practiced this last night, and let's see if it works for all of us now.
James, I just want to say the slide that I see is overview of today's presentation.
Okay.
I wonder if you had a different slide that you wanted to.
I do. I have the May I Touch You exercise up here on my screen. And I'm not sure why that's not showing.
Do other people see it?
I think I need to stop the screen share for that one. Thank you, Barry. And I will start the screen share for this one. Now is it coming up?
Let's see. Nobody. We don't see it yet.
Okay. Well,
I've never been touched virtually before. This will be a fun exercise.
There we go.
How that works. All right, there it is. Coming up. Okay, better. Everybody see it now? Thumbs up. Okay.
Thanks for everyone's flexibility with the technology. We're all doing our best. There's more I can say about this exercise, but I want to reserve that until after the exercise.
I'm ready to create the breakout rooms if everyone else is ready.
Go for it, Barry.
Okay.
We weren't quite done yet, but
Was that an accidental return?
No, it was intentional to happen after 7 minutes. I think it was a little bit short on my end, but that's
Okay.
what we did. So,
Okay.
So that exercise is, I feel, useful for engendering respect and being able to hear people's yeses and people's nos. And it's one that I've done with clients before who say they have a hard time saying no, or they have a hard time saying yes. And sometimes you've heard the saying of, your yes is only as good as your no, or your no is only as good as your yes. I think it can be quite empowering to have people say no, and the added aspect of touch in it is, I think, also extra powerful, given that touch sometimes is not used or has not been used in helpful ways with people. So to give people agency over their yes and no is, I think, powerful. And it's also interesting, I think, to do this virtually, because sometimes that presence with people, I feel, can be just as powerful virtually as it is in person. The other reason I wanted, part of the reason this is part of zero balancing is because, as I mentioned, our ideal touch is interface. Part of the reason I shared this exercise is because in zero balancing, we aspire to an interface touch where there's that clarity between one person and another person. And one of the things that we like to do with zero balancing is to have a clear disconnect when we're not touching someone, and especially at the end of the session, to be very clear in that disconnect. And at the end of our time today, when we're done with the question and answer session, I want to have just a little ritual to help us have a clear, clean disconnect from our time together this morning. And it's just a short little minute-long ritual that I'd like to do with you. So I'd like to move on to the second piece of what I wanted to present, which is talking about working signs. If I can go back to screen share that Prezi presentation that I had up earlier. Okay. So working signs are physical signs of energy movement. And a working state is a period of energetic and physical change when a client is likely to be in an expanded or altered state. There's 4 main working signs that energy is moving: the breath, the eyes, voice vitality, and body signals. I noticed these working signs obviously a lot in zero balancing with people. And the other time that I tend to notice them most in myself is when I'm doing yoga. And one of the working signs, the first one that I want to talk about is with the breath. It's common that when someone is undergoing some kind of a shift internally, the breath may become a little shallow as the energy goes inside and there's some kind of reorganization inside the person. And then the person may take a deeper breath after that. So what it looks like is, if I can model it on the videos, the person may be, and you can't see my chest, you can't see my breathing very easily, but someone may be in a zero balancing session, or you may be in a yoga posture, or you may be meditating, and you're kind of at a quiet place, or the energy is internal, and then all of a sudden you kind of go, oh, and you just take this kind of a deeper breath and then kind of return to normal breathing. Have any of you noticed that with yoga or with meditation, perhaps with clients who are in a bit of a, I don't know, a reflective or internal state? And a yawn can be an example of that. And sometimes that can be encouraged if somebody doesn't seem like they're breathing. It's like you might invite them to take a breath. It's just, I invite you to take a breath, or to open your jaw and yawn. It actually feels good right now to do that, to take a little yawn. So if I see you on the screen and you're yawning or taking a big breath, I won't take it adversely. Let me see if I can show a pictorial representation of this breath. I may have to stop the screen share to do this. This diagram is an example of that breath being a little short, and then the person kind of takes a deeper breath and returns back to normal breathing. So the breath is a working sign that energy is moving in someone, and sometimes those deeper breaths are helpful to pay attention to or to be aware of, or the lack of breath too. If someone is breathing very shallowly for a period of time, it can lead to a depletion of the person's energy. And in which case, with zero balancing, we want to alter our touch to be a little more stimulating or more engaging. If the person's just kind of seems to be just like leaving their body or disengaged from their body, because we want the person to be in their body when we're doing zero balancing as much as possible. Go back to the screen share here. The other sign of a working sign is the eyes. If a client is lying in zero balancing and their eyes are closed, one of the things you'll see that's a working sign is you'll see their eyeballs kind of rotating underneath their eyelids, almost like REM sleep. The person's, they're like usually not conscious that this is happening, but with their eyes closed, their eyes will start to kind of roll a little bit. And that's a sign that energy is moving. Another possibility is that the person's eyelids may blink a bit while their eyes are closed. That kind of fluttery eyelids, it's like you look at your cat or your dog and they're dreaming and their eyelids are kind of fluttering. They might even be twitching a little bit. It's showing that there's energy moving. There's something going on inside. And that's with eyes closed. With eyes open, one of the things we see in zero balancing, if the client has their eyes open, is that they may all of a sudden move into a fixed stare, like almost like a blank stare. And that's showing that the energy is going deeper or there's something going on inside that blank stare. These are things you're probably not likely to see in just people passing by, but if you're doing therapy with people, I would think, especially like with brain spotting or guided meditations with clients, you might notice this. And I'm trying to address this group because I realize we're mostly therapists of different sorts or ministers. Another sign of energy moving is voice vitality. If a person has if you ask them, how are you doing during a session? And they respond like, I'm doing okay. That they're in zero balancing, we say they're leaning towards depletion. And we can course correct a little bit with a session by using a little more invigorating touch, perhaps engaging the client verbally. And that can be useful, especially with people who have a trauma history, who may be kind of leaving their body or not present in their body, to engage them in some way and maybe even encourage them to pay attention to their body. But if you ask the person how they're doing and they say, good, you know that they're not leaning towards that depletion, and that's a good thing. A real long pause too, if you ask someone, sometimes that can be a sign that someone is leaning towards depletion, that the energy is becoming depleted. Some of the people that tend to become depleted more easily in zero balancing, we say, tend to be vegetarians and people who meditate a lot and people who have had a lot of use of drug use, particularly recreational drugs. We say that they tend to become more depleted more easily. Vegetarians, drug users, and what was the third one? Vegetarians, drug users, and even if just someone's tired, then they've been up all night, then they're going to be more likely to go towards depletion during zero balancing, and I would imagine during therapy as well. There's also a number of body signals that the energy is moving inside someone. Take a look at my notes. One of the most interesting body signals that energy is moving in there is the smooth muscle in people's abdomen will relax and their stomachs will gurgle. Medically, that term is called borborygmus. And fancy word, but it just means that the smooth muscle in people's intestines is relaxing and their stomach may gurgle. And it can be helpful to, sometimes clients will feel embarrassed, like their stomach is gurgling, and they'll almost like want to grip their abdomen and kind of stop the gurgling. And I like to tell clients that, oh, that's a good sign. It means that relaxation is occurring, and just allow your stomach to gurgle if it's going to gurgle. Another physical sign is certainly with zero balancing or touch therapies, that you can feel there's a tissue change in the person. You put in a bit of a pressure point, let's say, and you can feel the tissue respond. You can feel that relaxation. Sometimes people will give off an odor as their energy changes, or their color may change some. They may have emotional releases of some sort, crying or shaking. A common one that I see now and again when people are in a sort of a deep, relaxed state that's showing that the energy is moving is they'll have a little bit of a jerk, like we call it a kriya. Kind of like when you're lying in bed half asleep and all of a sudden you kind of just do one of these things, or your leg might jerk, and that's a sign that there's energy that's moving. Another sign that the energy is shifting in a person would be that the environment of the room can change. So just like in a yoga class, when you start off the yoga class, as you get deeper into a yoga class, you can feel the environment shift. You can feel there's a greater sense of peace, a greater sense of quiet, even though maybe outside wise, there's no more, the person's lawnmower is still going next door, but there'll be a sense of serenity in that room, showing that the energy has been moving. Facial expressions can show that the energy is moving too. Yawning. Sometimes people's heads will just kind of drift off to the side a little bit. Sometimes the heartbeat, you can see the heartbeat, particularly in the carotid artery area, or you can notice it in the abdominal aorta. So you'll see almost like an increased kind of a heartbeat, like a thumping that's just a little more pronounced or noticeable in people when that energy is moving. So there's some signs that there's shift taking place. Not always may people be aware of that in themselves, but we can be aware of it as clinicians if we're doing some kind of a therapy with people. All right, let me go back here. I wanted to just say a few things about when to refer to a zero balancing practitioner, and then just open things up for questions. Zero balancing is really helpful for stress management, for people going through transitions. So we're all going through transitions all the time, and certainly now is more than ever. Many of us we're going through transitions as cultures and people, and zero balancing is helpful for aches and pains. And certified practitioners of zero balancing need a healthcare license, like an acupuncture license or a therapist license or physical therapy or a chiropractor, that kind of thing. And I did want to invite people, if they're interested in experiencing zero balancing, a discount if you wanted to come and see me, 20% off until Thanksgiving. Zero balancing is designed to promote wellness. It's not a diagnostic system of identifying pathology. There's other systems that are good for that. So that ends what I wanted to present today, and wanted to give plenty of time for questions. Stop my screen share.
James Barry had a question for you in the chat area.
Okay.